Hey guys, thank you for joining us for another exciting episode of YOML. This is the year of magical learning. We are on reflection 223, and today, following up on the part three of five reflection, this is actually related, but it's not the same book. It's something about some theory of happiness that Chris have uncovered. So I'm excited to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, no, this is a totally different book. So this is A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. I think we've probably all heard of it. This is Stephen Hawking, the guy in the wheelchair that talks like has the robot voice that had MS. I think he has Lou Gehrig's disease, right? This is his landmark volume in science writing by one of the greatest minds of our time, and Stephen Hawking, as he explores such profound questions as how did the universe begin and what made it possible? Does time always flow forward? Is the universe unending? Are there boundaries? Are there dimensions in space? Right? It's a brief history of time, as told by the world famous Professor Stephen Hawking. And like, I'll tell you what. So the reflection title of this one is My Grand Unified Theory for Happiness, which is multiplied
Work
by.
relationship.
No, I'm not going to tell you.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't know how to like write infinity power on there, so I just wrote the little
Just put
infinity symbol.
a carrot.
I couldn't. I don't know why I couldn't put it in there. It was. I don't know. Anyway,
Oh,
here's my grand unified theory of happiness. So because I didn't understand any of this book, I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I mean, I was like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Like, I mean, this stuff was so abstract that I was like, I think I'm following along, and I'm so worried about, talk about your elephant in your rider. Like, I could not process what he was saying. The words that were coming out of his mouth, he was literally speaking a different language than what I was, the language
yep.
that I'm aware of. And I was like, I don't think, as I started off this reflection, I was like, look, this is cool stuff. I really appreciate how imaginative, physicists are, and they're incredible with being able to try to make sense of the world, and the ways that they try to make sense of things they'll never touch or see or whatever. And it's pretty incredible. That said, I was like, at the end of this book, I was like, all that just flew right over my head. And I would need to read this book 100 times for me to understand damn near anything that he was talking about. So it made me think about, like, instead of writing about a reflection about what I've learned from this book, I was like, I'm going to write a reflection about the universe that I've been exploring, that I'm still trying to perfect, which is the universe of me, of Chris, for the past 2.5 years, right? I did learn a little bit, from this book, meaning there were some universal principles that he talked about that I thought might help us on this conversation to help figure out my grand unified theory of happiness. And law number one is the universe is always in motion. Per this book, the universe is always in motion. So it appears to start off in an ordered state and is moving from order, like i.e. the Big Bang, to disorder. It's just slowly moving into a disordered state, like things are spreading, right? The elements that bring life as we know it, per this book, can only exist when the universe is going from order to disorder. So when the universe is expanding and things are slowly moving into a disorder state. And then finally, at some point in time, it will reverse and it'll go from moving from order to disorder to moving back from disorder to order. I don't know when that'll happen, maybe hundreds of billions of years in the future. I don't know that anybody knows that, but the theory is that it will. That's the universal laws that underlie the universal laws, right? Like of time and motion and space and things like that. So what I found interesting was for the whole universe, for life to exist, for us to even be here, moving from order to disorder is what creates life, right? And then you flip that around to humanity, and like we are the exact opposite of that. Like we love to take disorder and turn it into order, right? Like that is, like, for whatever weird reason, like we are just talk about our beaver mustang, our elephants. Like we are obsessed with taking disorder and turning it into order in this world. And yet the whole universe is going the opposite direction. And that's the elements that are needed for life to even happen in the first place. So it made me start to think. Stephen Hawking would talk about these. They distill down all these really immense, complex things that are going on into, like, science and math are great, and physics are a great example of how humans take disorder and turn it into order, right? We turn them into algorithms and these grand unified theories, and we try to explain the universe through us making order out of it, right? And I thought it would be a fun exercise to take these universal principles, to apply them to the universe of Chris, and to try to bring order to disorder with my grand unified theory of happiness. So I thought about, in the universe of Chris, what are the main things that are always in a state of constant motion and expanding, that are always in disorder? And for me, it made me think about emotions, right? Like I feel like humans' emotions are that completely disordered state. Like they're all over the place. We don't really know where they come from or where they're going, but like, they're just in this state of disarray at all times, right? So for us to bring order to our emotions, we have to have some sort of a grand unified theory in order to bring ordered state, which is happiness, versus disordered state of our emotions, which is depression, anxiety, sadness. If our emotions are scattered all over the place and we don't know how to make sense of them at all, typically it leads to something bad. If we can bring order to them, typically we call that, I feel like, happiness, maybe, potentially. I mean, maybe that's the word of an ordered state of our emotions is maybe happiness. So all that said, are you ready for the grand unified theory of
Can't wait.
happiness? Right. So here it goes. So and you already got that right. My grand unified theory for happiness, H stands for happiness, which equals meaning, and the M stands for meaning, times work, and also times relationships to the infinity power to represent that the work never ends, because we just always keep doing that, right? But now you ask meaning, what is meaning necessarily? So I feel like meaning can be broken down a little bit further to say meaning equals V, or V stands for values. Multiply that times A, which stands for activities, and P, which stands for people. So then to get meaning, you have to take your values and apply that to the activities you do and the people that you're around, and you will find meaning, which then you can take back to go apply to the work that you do and the broader relationships you try to build. And therefore, you get my grand unified theory of taking order or taking my disordered emotions and moving it into an ordered state to be able to ultimately find happiness. And that is my universe of Chris laws of happiness. So grand unified theory. Anyway, I'll pause there. Love to get your thoughts.
It's very interesting. I mean, meaning is equal to values multiplied by activity plus people. Okay, I can get that. Activity plus people. Activity with people.
If you're doing your values with people.
What is value multiplication of activities and people represent? I understand activity plus people is doing activity with people surrounded by your value, right? I'm trying to actually plug in the formula. Just pick the activities with the people, which is a plus. Plus is with, right? The multiplication is what I'm trying to figure out how to multiply the value. How do we multiply the value with activities we do with people?
Well, you have to take a value. So like if one of your values is play or learning, then you multiply learning times what activities you do to learn plus the people you do it with is how you get meaning.
Right. And when I understand that, but my question will be, why do you multiply value times A plus P and not value plus A plus P? That's the question.
Well, I'm not a mathematician, and I was doing that. And I don't know the answers to this. I was joking around, I guess, kind of, half, sort of.
But that's what I'm saying is I can get that. Like when you do the activities with the people, right? Activity plus people is you do the activity with people. That's straightforward. The multiplication is what does that represent? I'm trying to figure that out.
Is it division then? Is it multiplication?
Or division? Division you have to take away.
Well, you're spreading your values over because your values have to align to both the activities and the people in order for it to be meaningful.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Why don't you do A plus B to the power of A of V?
Okay, that
right?
Works. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it makes sense. I already kind of know. Go ahead, explain.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to understand the reason why you do the multiplication versus the power of, because the power is exponential. Okay. Right. Even though a V is a multiplication, but it's linear. So for me, based on that particular piece of the exponential, because we're talking about the compound effect, right? Compound effect is like 1 plus 1, right? It doesn't go in a straight line because you have V. V is basically the slope, right? V is always linear. When you multiply by a constant, that value is always going to give you a straight line, not a parabolic curve, right? So you're going to have to do A plus B to the power of V.
Okay. I mean, I agree.
I'm just a nerd.
No, I understand exactly what you're saying, and you're right. So that makes more sense.
Because to me, when you do the activity that is the core of you are exponentially expounding your value, your meaning for result. We have an exponential result because it's going when you do more of it, because if you do the A plus B, once, right? It's going to give you one time. It's going to give you, like, if you go twice, it's going to give you 4 times. It's going to be exponential. So the meaningful you get is compounding. It's not a linear,
I agree. I
right? You
totally agree.
have
It
to
makes
do the
more sense.
power
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
V
Yeah.
to get the so that to
How
me.
do I
And
write? Can I actually edit this? And how do I do to the power of, I don't even know how to write that in like
can you
a
do a simple script?
what?
Simple script, or do a caret, a hat.
A hat. Where is that?
It's Shift 6.
Shift. Oh, there it is. Okay. And then do what?
And then you remove the V from the front.
Oh, so that means that's how you draw that? Because it usually just is like a little tiny V at the top, like
Right. You do the caret, the hat is what you do. So
right. Oh,
meaning,
yeah.
so now go back to the other formula. So you have two part, right?
Right. Oh,
Is it the same formula? Is it's a system of equation, or are we talking about
no,
two
meaning was just further broken down, so you take the meaning from
the
here
meaning? Okay.
and then you add that to the happiness hypothesis or the happiness
Well,
equation.
so the thing is, with the meaning I get, with the happiness I don't understand. So
That's meaning
the
being spread out over work and the relationships you have.
but is it not activities and people?
No, because activities isn't necessarily meaningful work. Like, I could
Okay, fine,
do
fine, fine. Okay.
I could do stuff with people, but that doesn't mean that it's a meaningful relationship either. So I'm
No, no,
saying
no. It's not meaningful relationship because it's work and relationship. That's stand alone by itself,
right.
right? It only become meaningful work if you multiply the meaning for
Right.
by the work and relationship. So the question I'm trying to figure it out is, how do you define work and relationship? Are they the normal work and relationship that we see now today?
No, that's a good question. I would say work is really more defined as kind of your art, your
But
yeah.
that's what I'm saying is it's kind of already
Work
um
isn't really the word, but
it's already in the equation of A and P.
kind of.
Because the thing is, if you think about equations or system of equations, right? So let's say you define meaning. Meaning is, A plus B to the power of V. That's meaning you
Mhm.
plug that in. So AP to the power of V
Right.
multiplied by work plus relationship in parentheses. The question is, how do you define work like you define meaning?
Right. Yeah.
How do you define a relationship? Because, like I say, are you defining as the regular what we see? Because work by itself,
That's a good point. So then we would have to further break down what work is in an equation
because I
and
can't use
relationships
it
and
if I can't
right.
understand it.
Yeah. All right, that's fair. So like then we have to define what work is. So what would you define work as? Like if you were gonna have to put that into a grand unified theory of how would you define meaningful work, if you
Because
had
I think the meaningful work, right? Because the thing when you say meaning times work and relationship, I think
right.
that's already part of the A plus P to the V power of V equation already. Because it's not the same, but it's
No,
included in it. So
sort
subset
of.
of the equation is already in the work.
Here's the thing. I can play tennis and my values can be multiplied by tennis and with the people that I play tennis with. But that does not mean that those are meaningful work and meaningful relationships. That just means that I find meaning in tennis. Now I can take whatever those skills are, maybe I apply that toward a lot of the stuff that we talk about are things that I've learned playing tennis with other people and through that activity. But those people aren't necessarily meaningful relationships, and tennis
That
isn't
means you're
necessarily
gonna have
meaningful
to
work.
let's say you
I mean,
have like
right,
because the meaning I get, right? Meaning means you just do the activities with the people that aligns to your value. Okay,
right.
that's like, hey, I play tennis regardless
I find meaning
of
in playing tennis.
you find the work that is part of meaning. So you have to do to take
You
out,
know
not
what? Meaning,
multiply.
the work needs to
But
be
I think
purpose-driven.
the equation needs to be, like I said, we need to define what it is, because you
Yeah,
can't tell me to do work, because for me is I get the meaningful. Now I still don't know how to plug in the work, right? Meaning as a person, how do I use a formula?
I agree. I mean, work should be broken down to something that's like
And
work
have
equals purpose plus meaning.
but you already define meaning.
No, I know. Work equals purpose plus values. Maybe. Is that it? No.
No, but you already have values in meaning.
Yeah, yeah, I know. So work equals purpose.
So you either do a system of equations, or you have to distill the work and the relationship to a point where you can
Right.
multiply and add them together to get the ultimate, which is the happiness that you want.
Or we need to bring order to our disordered emotions.
Well, I don't think that's part of it. You are trying to solve the problem of the ratio between disorder and order, meaning
Balance,
the
is that what it is?
yeah,
Balance?
the
Yeah, yeah.
balance. Because you're trying to find the equation for balance in a way, and you can't really take that because it's already defined in it. So you
Interesting.
can't, because otherwise you have what we call a infinite loop because it referencing itself.
So
Right?
how would you incorporate balance into this equation? Is it divided by balance, you know?
Mm,
And
no,
broken
no.
down by another equation?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how to define that. I'm just trying to understand what you wrote. I'm impressed with what you had so far. I just need to figure it out, or I need to get you
Elaborate, help
to.
me. Yeah, help me.
And I'm trying.
Yeah.
I just don't know what work has to do with.
Let's work it out. So for me to be happy, I need meaningful work. Work makes us happy.
Well, I don't think it's the word work maybe the word work confuses me because for me, I can understand activity and people, and to me,
How
that's
this?
work in a way.
How about this? How do I describe clubbing? How do I describe this? Well, it's not work.
Work,
Well, but it's not. This is a purpose-driven activity that you and I do every single night.
right? Because it's applied by the value.
Yeah, but
Activity by itself.
tennis is a meaningful activity for me, but it is not a purpose-driven activity. There's a difference.
Well, it's still meaningful to you.
Oh, I didn't say that tennis isn't meaningful to me. I'm saying that tennis
That's what I'm
isn't
saying. That's why I say I
but
understand the equation M is equal to A plus P to the power of V. I understand that because it applies to company, applies to tennis, applies to whatever that we like to do,
yeah, I mean,
right? Because
yes.
it has meaning to us. That's why we want to do it. That's why it energizes us to do it. The question is, how do we define the word work? And maybe the happiness equation is not quite, finalized because maybe work isn't part of the equation.
Well, it's not. Maybe we talked about this.
Like I
now
say,
for
the word
probably
work,
the better part of
it
two
kind of
fucking
stuck.
years.
Like,
You know, of like what we get stuck on the words work. You know, like, and we're like, well, we both know what we're trying to. We just need to invent a new word for work.
well, I think
For what we mean by it.
because I think like if you take meaningful work, it's gonna equals the activity times value to the power of value, and relationship is equal to people to the value to the power of value by itself. That's what I think. But then you have
I
meaning.
disagree. I disagree because activities and people does not equal meaningful work and meaningful relationships. Like, even if those activities are things that relate to your values, that does not mean that they are meaningful. Does not mean that those individual activities and people are meaningful by themselves on their own merit. Meaning has to be spread out over, and there has to be meaning plus what you're doing and the people you're around. That has to be meaningful for them too, for it to be a meaningful relationship. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like it
right.
has to be and it has to be purpose has to be a part of this in some way.
And I think the equations could be more complicated than that if you take
Right.
it from that perspective as well. Happiness is meaning to the power of infinity. That's what I think. Meaningful work isn't just about activity with people to values, right? So it has to, because it has to distill from, let's say you do 10 things, right? And then, it's not automatically make that meaningful work. It doesn't not automatically make it meaningful relationship because other people have to also see it as meaningful to them as well. So the
Exactly.
equation is missing that other piece, other variable.
So what's the missing ingredient?
You know how to do the factorial?
No, I
It's
don't.
going to get complicated, but I think that's going to be beyond the discussions for our audience. I mean, I think, we may have lost them in the first 5 minutes
Well,
of
no,
this.
it's fun to work through it. I mean, I'm not a mathematician. Like, I mean, I was, joking when I wrote this, obviously, like, because it was not
Right,
like,
but I think to be more aligned with, be more logical, even though it's not entirely correct.
right.
Meaning is equal to, in my mind, is equal to activity plus people to the power of value.
I think we both agree on that for sure. I think we can find meaningful.
And happiness is equals to meaning multiply or divide by something to distill the meaning out to the power of infinity. So right now, if we only have one perspective,
It's got to always
the
be
meaning,
meaningful.
but that's what I'm saying, we're missing something. But if we say,
Yeah.
let's discard the other thing for now, let's only focus on a single perspective right now. Meaning over one to the power of infinity. Therefore, happiness is equal to meaning to the power of infinity with the current perspective we have. If you add it into other people, then you have to do the underlining, because you have to distill the meaning to that it fits both you and the other person.
Right.
So that
And same with the work too. I mean, the work
so
has
the
to
denominator
right.
has to be some meaningful work and relationship that is only specific and common to all the parties involved.
Correct.
So that would be the X factor.
Yes.
So
I think you and I need to workshop this.
Right now we have this. We just need to figure out what question mark is.
There you go.
And that can be difficult. But let's leave it at that for now. I think we geeked out too much.
Well, what do you think about the other elements? You know, like
so to me, the thing is, in the universe, there's always pros and cons. In the universe, there's always balance. When there is disorder, there has to be a order for you to have a disorder. You cannot have you cannot have when if you say the universe is expanding, right? Well, where is it expanding from?
I don't know.
Right? So what I'm saying is there always have to be a balance. When you have a matter, there always have to be an anti-matter. Well, it cannot exist one without the other. When you have darkness, you will have light. Light and darkness. Right. It's the existence or the absence of something, right? So if you look at our universe as a fractal is like its children is like its parent, like a tree. A tree, right? A branch looks like a tree, and a smaller branch looks like a tree. It's a fractal. That means like the small parts has the resemblance of its parents and ancestors. So this is fractal.
Well, that was in some book we read. Was that in Black Swan or something? It was. I think it was in one of the Taleb books. He was talking about was it Poincaré or whatever? Poincaré, is he the dude that does like the factorials? Or I'm talking out my ass with this stuff because, like, you know, is it Poincaré, I believe?
Because basically a fractal is like a repeating patterns of its ancestors, right? And because the thing is, it's harder to explain because when people talk about fractal, they're talking about like shapes and geometrics and all that. But fractal is nothing more than a pattern that repeats itself in the smaller part, because the smaller part has exact pattern as the bigger part, right? So if you take that concept of fractal, that means that the universe is going to behave just like you and me. Meaning, right, in life, we always have this order, but in order for this order to happen, there has to be a order. So in order for something to decompose, it has to compose first. Like our small universe is a representation of the big universe. When you say the big universe is going to be always expanding, our universe is a representation of it, and it behaves exactly like it. It's just in a smaller scale. It's just a scale of it. So that's what fractal is. And so when you look at our small universe, right, we have always been this expanding there. I mean, we go into chaos, right? But the thing is, when you look at our life,
moving it into
the thing is, in the beginning, we compose. So for you to have the heart, the arms, the eyes, whatever, it is composing. It's just not disorder, right? So it's composing and it's growing. So it is composing. So they're always composer and decomposers, right? And so in we as a human, we are a composer. So we are like we make babies, right? Our babies actually composing its other elements into the shape of a human, right? That disperse and become chaos, and then you start to get older and you wither away and you die. But you there's a cycle. There's always that balance. So you cannot have one without the other. So when you look at our universe that we can see and study in a smaller scale, it represents the bigger scale because we understand that the universe works in fractal.
So do you think that happiness means that we are in an ordered state in our own universe? If you called it the universe of your metaphysical universe, like Is happiness an ordered state or a disordered state, or is it a balanced state?
It's a balanced state.
It's a good point. I mean, yeah, it doesn't.
If
Yeah.
you are,
No, I actually think you're right. I don't think happiness is like, if it's pure order, then we're just like, it's boring. It's got to have that healthy mix of disorder and order to keep us, keep us guessing a little bit and keeping us engaged all the time, right? Like, I mean, I think when you tip,
it's a transition. It's a transition because
right,
if you think about how we always want the next step, it's always about the progress. You want to go on vacation, what do? You hurry up and pack,
right,
right? And then you go to the airport. And once you get to the airport, you hurry up and go on airplanes and you hurry up and take off, right? And when you take off, you go on vacation and hurry up and pack and go home. But then when you're in the airplane, you want to take off, and when you're on the airplane that's flying, you want the next step. It's like it's not a certain state that you want. It's the ability to jump to the next state. It's in the cycle of balance.
yeah, that makes
So
sense.
you think about it, like I said, I may not say this in a
So
the
maybe
best way, but we are
maybe
anxious
this needs to be balance equals meaning times work plus relationships.
because you understand what I'm saying is we never want to be at one state. Because when you, like I said, when you're on an airplane, you want the next thing. Hey, hurry up and get there, right? And then when you go on your vacation, you want to hurry up and go back home. So if they tell us, what do you want? It's not the state that you want. The state is the ability to do the next step. So it's always this motion. So the number one is the universe is always in motion because of that property.
Right.
The property is that it's not the happiness is driven by the ability to jump to the next state, but the state is always in a cyclical.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It's always, yeah.
It's cyclical because you keep jumping around. That's why it keeps going motion.
Yeah.
Because it's not a linear. It's always in a circular motion. And so that's what that fuels the universe to be in motion. And I think having the balance, having the order to the disorder, and vice versa, that creates the engine of the universe. The universe runs on that.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Honestly, this stuff that I wrote down here, these were principles that I heard in this book that I was like, okay, I can at least understand that. But when they started talking about black holes and whatever, and how things, I'm like, it's almost like a fantasy land that's like an imagination.
You have to take the factual perspective in order to understand that, because you don't see what's its grand perspective in the universe. So you have to take our universe, for example. How does life work? Right? You can't say, well, if you say everything is going from a order to a disorder, well, where did the order came from?
I don't know. I mean, what did order
come
from?
But if you look at life, we are going to the order. But when you were first born, right, you came from nothing. You came from disorder to order, because there is a system that creates order. And then it moved to a system that creates disorder. We, as a human being, is able to birth a child, to create a child from all of the nutrients and elements that we put together. We eat the elements, and all of these disorder elements, it is fusing in to form a human being.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
This order.
I agree.
So there is a system that creates order, and there's a system that creates disorder. But the state goes from an order to a disorder to an order. It basically passed back and forth. The object, for the object to transform inside of a order system, the disorganized elements and atom, it is fusing to form an object. And then once the object gets out of the system of order, the system of disorder takes over and transforms the object into a disorder state, meaning we turn to dust.
For sure. I can't remember the exact. Do you remember the is it like 1 in 400 trillion, the odds of us existing, or something like that? Is that
probably more than that?
I think it. Oh no, 1 in 400 quadrillion is what it is. Sorry, I just looked that up. Yes, so it's like the odds of us, all that life coming together to form a life form from bringing order to disorder, is 1 in 400 quadrillion. Isn't that kind of crazy?
It's crazy. But like I said, there always have to be a balance, because I'm saying is, all I see is in the things and in the environment I can see. Everything has its balance, has its purpose, has its place. And it's always about the movement. the motion of one state to the next state. That's what makes us happy.
Right.
Right. Because the thing is, sometimes, because right now, let's say I don't talk to you. Okay. Okay. I want to talk to you because, I miss the goofing off conversation that we have. And then
Right.
when I talk to you too much, hey, it's way too exhausting. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so the thing is, but the thing is not about having one state or another state. It's having transitioning. It's a transitioning is that we want. So I think
So
going back to what I'm saying is happiness is always having the ability for the motor, the engines to run. If the engine doesn't run, then you don't have happiness, regardless of where you are.
So I mean, I know I was joking with this equation, but I mean, we can keep working on this if you want to, because I agree. I think putting like motion and like movement from, a state of, it could be,
And this is
I
where
don't know how to make it.
and this is where the infinity comes in, because you don't have a circular motion, and infinity
Right.
can't exist because eventually it's going to hit the end.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
So
Yeah, it's got to come back at that point.
so it has to loop. It has to loop somewhere. That's why if you continue, it's going to go in infinity cycles, right? It has to loop, and otherwise it's not possible. It has to end somewhere. Nothing can be endless unless it is in a circular motion, and nothing can be constant motion unless it's in the cycles.
I think you're onto something. I think you need to go sit down and take what we did with this initial first pass, and then use your math brain on it, because and I'm happy to I think
I mean,
I
don't think about it. I just
right.
talk about it.
Right. Like this. Yeah, this is beyond I can talk to you about the concepts of these things,
but that's the
put
thing
it
is without
an algorithm,
talking and discussing. I mean, I wouldn't be able to give you any of my opinions that
right.
But the thing is, if you give me this task, it's not meaningful.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's still activity plus the people, right? Activity times the value, but it doesn't have the people. Therefore, it's not meaningful relationship.
Agreed.
Because to me, in order for me to do this, I have to discuss it with you.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying do this by yourself. I'm saying I don't know the algorithms, the math equations, that language. I don't speak the language of math, right? So I can't take it any further than what I did on here, because I was joking anyway with this equation. But I'm actually kind of curious to see, if you were to actually try to put an equation around it, what would that look like?
There gotta be some mathematician whiz out there that can probably do that for us, because that's what they do.
Right.
Even on purpose. It's probably effortless for them.
When they can translate the words and the sentiments and the concepts of what we're talking about into an algorithm.
At the end of the day, I think having the ability to distill it to something basic that we can do, like I said, it's about doing the activity with the people that aligns to your value. That is something I can understand and I can put into practice.
Right.
Because whether formulas, I mean, the formula is going to give you a much easier understanding of how to implement these formula and concept, and that's why the formula exists.
So we can find, in my opinion, I think my therapist may have told me this one time. She was like, I remember her saying something about she works with a lot of her patients, finding meaning in any activities and in anything that you're doing. And I actually agree with that. But I challenged her back and I was like, but you can't find purpose in every activity. That's a totally different animal. Just because something is meaningful does not mean it aligns to your purpose. Doing a whole lot of things that are meaningful, that ultimately all roll up to, if you took this equation, the meaning equation, and you somehow multiply that by that, by that, by that, by that, that all equals a aggregate compound effect purpose, right? You know what I mean? Because you could take this activity plus these people, roll that all up into whatever your purpose is.
I mean, you're gonna need like 3 or 4 boards in the size of the university chalkboard that to come up with a simple formula like E equal MC squared. Right. Because E equal MC squared is a very, very simple formula. But I asked you, how do you implement that?
We talked about this, because it probably took Einstein a decade and a whole lot, and
more than a decade.
More than it's taken us 3 years and 300 books to get to this point in time where we're jokingly saying m equals a plus p to the v to the, you know what I mean? It's funny, but at the same time, it's, profoundly simple, but at the same time, like it's not.
But
been
it's still
easy to get to
difficult
that.
because, like
Yeah,
I said,
you're right.
if you know the energy is equal to mass times the speed of light square, but how do you put it into practice?
I don't know. Yeah,
Exactly.
you should make another equation for C equals,
What is C?
C equals cake. Energy that you get from activities and the people you surround yourself with that has to be aligned to
No,
values.
it's supposed to be E equals cake C times
sorry.
something, right?
Right.
Minus something, right? Because you have to
That's right.
times something and minus some kind of a willpower or whatever.
I think my brain is fried for the night. Physics makes my head hurt whenever we start talking about this stuff. So, all right, I'm gonna tap out. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, I just, I think we're getting better at defining a lot of the things, the concept that we dish out. So I think it's a step forward.
Yeah, I agree. It's fun. I mean, it's like these are all fun and games, but at the same time, it's also purpose driven. So it's always fun, but also at the same time, it's always work. But we don't know what we're gonna call that work.
Work is if I have to do because someone
Right.
else told me to do it. It's
So
play
then-
when I want to do it.
So then we need to figure out a word that means what we're saying. We have to understand, because I know that we understand what we're saying, but we can't always say, well, it's work, but it's not this, and it's play, but it's not that. It's got to be some
word.
Yeah, I know.
Remember that word you gave me? What was that word? The Viking, the German word?
Yeah,
Umwelt.
Umwelten. Yeah.
Umwelten, right? We have to come up with another.
Exactly. I mean,
No,
maybe we just call it beavering.
Yeah.
Yeah, just want to call it beavering.
Right, we're gonna have to call it. We have some word that makes sense, and
Right.
or it doesn't make sense, so we can clearly define it so that people don't get confused with the existing word.
Exactly. All right, let's put a pin in this one, and I'm sure many more conversations to come around how we define this stuff. But thanks for joining, everyone. And the question that we can leave for you all is, what is your formula for happiness? If you don't have one, don't read this book to figure it out.
It's a good book.
I don't know about that. Maybe when I'm like 90, after I figured out the universe of Chris, I'll turn my attention back to this stuff. I think my elephant is not aligned to this.
This is where the power of the value is exceptional.
Exactly. All right. Have a good night, everyone.